Hi, Emily. Welcome to Well Oiled Operations.
Hi, thanks for having me.
So excited. So before we dive in, what I would love to do is just share a little bit about your business, like where it is today, and then we'll get into backstory.
Oh my goodness. Well, I have two.
Okay.
I have a women's clothing boutique that has been located in Neptune Beach, Florida for 23 years.
Okay.
That business is doing great. And I also help my daughter with her business that she started when she was 9.
Oh, wow.
She's 26 now, went to school for entrepreneurship. And, it's been a really fun journey, but now that it's her full-time job, it's a lot helping her learn and scale and grow her business. So both businesses are thriving.
What is her business?
We're very busy. Her business is called Boobies, BOOB-EEZ. She launched an undergarment accessory, basically a nipple cover, but we don't call them that. We call them headlight hiders. And actually, you'll appreciate this. She started and she designed her first product when she was 9 because she was a dancer.
I was literally going to say this cannot be the 9-year-old company she started. Okay, but that makes sense. Yes.
Yeah, she was a dancer and she was very self-conscious and all of her leotards. And the products that I sold in my store didn't fit right, were too big, were enhancing and not just covering. And so she decided she could come up with a better mousetrap. And she did.
I love it so much. Yeah, I'm always telling my dancers, like if I see them with like a bra hanging out of their costume, I'm like, absolutely not. So now this makes so much sense. Okay, I love it. So now that she's older, are you involved in this business because it's just doing really well? Because is this like a partnership? I'm just wondering.
It's basically a partnership. So we co-founded the company together a million years ago. And it was kind of my side hustle that I didn't put a whole lot of time and attention into until she grew up and decided this is something I want to do. So she went to college, graduated with a degree from the College of Charleston, specialized in entrepreneurship, got all kinds of accolades for developing this business. And then she graduated and was like, oh my God, what am I going to do now? So we've been working together. It really started to pick up steam during the pandemic, which is shocking.
Interesting.
The whole world was shut down. But that's really when we had the time and attention to be able to put on both of our businesses.
Okay.
Here we are. So
That's interesting that it's like, that's a weird time that it would pick up, right? You're not really probably having to wear something like that because you're not really going out. But because you had the time and energy to pour into it, it took off. So I really want everybody to hear that piece because that's probably why it took off, not because the pandemic created a need for it. So if you're comfortable sharing, and if you're not, absolutely, totally fine. But do you mind sharing like what kind of revenues or like what she has brought in with something like that?
She probably does, I'd say between $500,000 and $600,000 a year.
That is mind blowing.
And during the pandemic, that's when we really got to switch gears, tweak the website, do some new product development and designing and testing. So that when the world kind of opened up again and people had to go out in public, they were like, I don't want to wear a bra. You wear one. So that's really, I think what helped kind of kickstart the program. Look, she does very, very well.
Wow.
And
okay.
That's just barely scratching the surface. This is like very little time, effort, and energy going into the product. So I see the opportunity for growth. Being humongous.
Okay. There's just so many ways I could take this conversation. Let me go back to you and your journey. Okay. So what made you start your store?
So I have a long history of workaholism. Super type A, love working. Some people are alcoholics, some people are shopaholics. I'm a workaholic. And I used to work for Merrill Lynch. That was my first job out of college. And after having a family that I really wanted to have some more flexibility to spend time with, not that my work was ever not supportive of that, but I was not supportive of that. Like when I'm accountable to somebody else, that's what comes first. So I needed something for our family where we were accountable for ourselves. And so I actually opened a children's boutique first.
Okay.
In 2001. And it was great. I opened the store on my daughter's second birthday, my younger daughter's second birthday. And the women's store next door, Jaffe's, which is my store now, we used to, back in the day, early 2000s, Juicy Couture sweatsuits were all the rage.
Yes, I remember.
We do like joint buying together.
Okay.
And we were in a buying meeting maybe 6 months after my store had opened. And the girls who opened it were like, I have a store already and Jill's going to have a baby and doesn't want to work anymore. Do you want to buy our store? And I was like, yeah, I do.
Okay.
So I bought the boutique next door to the kids' boutique. And interestingly enough, like that's kind of where my passion lies.
Okay.
Kids was great. It was called KYDS. It was a fantastic job while my children were younger. But as they grew up, my time and effort and energy really was needed in the women's boutique. So I sold it.
Okay.
On social media.
Wow.
Crazy. I literally sent out one email and I did one social media post and I had a line of people who were interested in buying my store. And I interviewed them like I was interviewing a employee for a job. And I chose the best people for the job and I sold it. And then I focused on my women's store solely with Boobies for about the last 7 years. And my business has just skyrocketed since then.
Yeah. Let's talk about having multiple focuses because you have dabbled in it and then you've experienced what it's like when you have one. So I think people like us, we have a lot of ideas and we think all of them are good and we should do all of them and implement all of them. But then there comes the consequences of I don't have time. So can we talk a little bit about your want and desire for other things and like how that has transpired in your business and personal life?
Well, I'm a very creative person, and I love helping people. I love being involved in 10 bajillion different things. So our vision mission, both for Jaffe's and for Boobies, is to help people feel more comfortable in the skin they are in. That's what we do. Whether you need an outfit for your 25-year high school reunion or whether you need to feel confident on stage at your dance competition, that's kind of what we do. And the things that we've gotten involved in have all revolved around that. But I don't think I realized that that's how we weed through the stuff until after I started your program. I didn't know, I wasn't able to articulate that before, even though intuitively that's just kind of how things work. So it's been great.
Okay. That's amazing to hear that. Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. It's how do you know when you've taken on too much? What has been the red flags for you or what has made you all of a sudden realize, and maybe it was after the fact, but can you just kind of describe what that looks like for people that are wondering if they're in it?
Well, my situation's kind of extreme because I've always taken on too much. I don't care if I sleep or if I don't. I will never do it at the expense of my family or my staff. But I'm happily up till 3 a.m. to get the project done. And that is not healthy. And I didn't realize that because I always considered myself to be a really healthy person until at the end of 2019, I was diagnosed with breast cancer.
Oh, wow.
I was surrounded by so much love and support from so many people that I had helped over the years. It was really a beautiful experience, but it also was like an Oprah aha wake up moment. Okay, you're not going to be able to help anybody if you're dead, basically.
Yeah.
You need to take care of yourself. And thank goodness it was early stage breast cancer. I had a mastectomy. Everything's been great ever since. And my family and my friends and my coworkers and my colleagues and my neighbors and everyone's just been so supportive and amazing through all that. But I think sometimes, at least in my case, it took a major health scare for me to be I love volunteering for all these things and I love getting involved in all these projects, but I can't do it by myself. So I'll do it if you'll help me. Yeah. And that's kind of where I am now.
Okay. Yeah. And unfortunately, a lot of times it does take something major to kind of, get in here and really make us understand. But anybody that's listening that hasn't had something major yet, like you've got to just take care of it now.
Just take care of it. Make it a habit. Make your health and well-being your first priority.
Yeah.
Because I've always been my last priority. And it hasn't been until I was in my 50s that I'm like, that's not really working out for me. So I'm not going to do that anymore.
So do you still consider yourself a workaholic?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Where does it come from? Like, what are you trying to accomplish, do you think, by working so much?
See, it's a hard thing to answer because I really think it's in my blood. Like I come from a long line of workaholics.
Okay.
On my mother's side, my mother's family owned a department store in Tennessee that was literally in existence for over 100 years.
Wow.
100 years. So retail's in my blood.
Yeah.
My father's family, they were immigrants from Italy, and they were dressmakers in the garment district. Literally until they retired. So they were workaholics. And so that's in my blood. So workaholism and family and food and all of the things is just how I was raised. And everybody just rolled up their sleeves and did what it took to get the job done, which is great. And which is why working with us is kind of, you feel like you're part of the family because you are.
Yeah.
But what I'm learning, and actually you've been helping me with this, is how to create healthy boundaries for everyone. So there's space for a little bit more balance. I've never been good at that.
Yeah. And here's the thing. I think a lot of us, we have good work ethics. That's one of the reasons we're still in business many years later, right? It takes a certain work ethic to put up with what we put up with or go through what we have to go through sometimes, right? So I don't think it's uncommon for people listening to probably identify with some of this. However, it can lead to burnout. And not only that, let's say you're superhuman and it doesn't lead to burnout. You start to show others and they watch you. And even if you say, oh, I'm not expecting you to work on the weekends, or I'm not expecting you to clock in constantly, they see it and they think, well, Emily's always working. How could I tell her no? Or how, and that's where it's like, you have to be really careful because it can start to trickle down into the culture. So just something and because they see you working so hard and they want to be just like you and they don't want to let you down. Right. So for me, even when I see other people in my organization doing some of my old tendencies, I have to slow them down. Right. I have to remind them, especially if they're a leader, somebody's watching you, right? They're thinking, I should be doing this too. We actually had somebody who loved working on Saturdays. I don't work on Saturdays, but they loved it. It was just like their morning to catch up. The problem was they would be tagging us inside of our project management software. So we would all get back to work on Monday with like a gazillion things to do. And we had to say, listen, you cannot do this. Like, I forbid you from working Saturday morning because you're making everybody dread Monday morning. And that's not the culture we want.
No.
Yeah. Okay. So you've been in business now, how long? How many years?
23.
Oh my goodness. Okay. I'm really happy to hear you bring up like the retail has been in your background. You have experience because I think retail sounds really fun.
It's so hard.
It's so hard. And I think you just even hearing like you had the background, you saw a lot, you heard a lot, you've had other people. Because what is the hardest part of retail? Can you share that a little bit? Like, why is retail so much harder than a lot of other industries?
I remember when I started my store, my uncle, who had been an entrepreneur for most of his life, said, you can always get inventory. You cannot always get cash. Remember that. And that's the hardest part is you buy all this stuff and you pay for it. And then you cross your fingers and toes and hope, oh my gosh, I hope we sell it. And I hope we sell it at the right margin so that I can pay my staff and my rent and my electric. And oh my gosh, we need a cleaning person or whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the hardest part is being able to really key into whatever your customers want and need before they know they need them in any type of retail environment, because it is not an exact science. It is an art and a science and a lot of good luck.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you're making all these predictions and you are hoping you are right.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So over the years, I am sure you have missed predictions maybe a few times, right?
Yes.
What does it take to get out of that? Like mindset, strategically, just anything you can share?
Both. It takes I kind of have always had a very positive can-do attitude. My mindset has always been like, we're going to figure it out. It's going to be fine. It's all good. And that just comes naturally for me. It does not come naturally for most people. And it took me a while to realize that. So even if we did make bad decisions and we were in the hole financially, I would always be like, oh, it's fine. It's fine. We're going to be fine. And people would be like, yeah. My husband would be like, well, but
Yeah.
You have to do the best you can with what you have at the end of the day. And if what you have isn't enough, then you work with what you have and get through it. And you learn from your mistakes. I think all of the mistakes that we've made over the years, whether they're buying mistakes, partnership mistakes, lines of business that maybe we had no business being in, all of those things may have cost us a lot of time, effort, energy, and money, but we've learned from those things, and hopefully we won't be making those mistakes again.
Yeah, I think that's great that you brought that up, because I also consider myself pretty positive. Even if something negative happens, I can move on very quickly. And with these conversations, I wanted people to start to identify themes of what it takes. And you're my first one, but I can guarantee you the people I interview are going to be mostly positive people, right? Because we experience a lot of negativity, negative reviews, angry customers, right? Employees who decide they're going to just blast us on social media, whatever it is. You have to be a certain kind of person that can take it. And like you said, learn from it and move on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, and you can learn something from everyone, even if it's what not to do.
Yes.
And sometimes that means firing your customers.
Yeah.
Sometimes that means letting an employee know that, you know what, I don't think this is a good fit. And maybe there's a better place for you, and that's hard.
For sure. So firing customers, 100%. We have done that a few times for sure. It's a little easier in service. How do you fire somebody in retail?
You don't really fire them. You just don't go above and beyond like you normally would, because some people are just never going to be satisfied. And you could literally pull every pair of jeans in the whole store.
Yeah.
5,000 of them looked amazing on them, and they're still not going to like anything. So you just learn never to be rude and never to be unappreciative, because we appreciate every person that comes through the door, whether they choose to buy something or not. But some people just really don't, they're just not satisfiable.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, for sure. So almost like you basically can set better boundaries when you realize this is not our ideal client, because it is a little different. They could just walk in your store and decide they're going to shop. With me, you have to register and sign up. And I can say, unfortunately, this is no longer a good fit, and we can actually fire. But I do agree with what you're saying. You wouldn't do what you would maybe do for a dream client. Yeah, that makes sense.
And it is hard. Like the whole boundary thing is hard in retail, because it's our job to go and be above and beyond. It's our job to answer questions 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, because we're open, we're online, we're a retail store open 7 days a week. So I think scheduling people to work at different times is like our challenge, so that people aren't burning themselves out. But it's hard. It's definitely a delicate balancing act.
For sure. Now, I know the pandemic, of course, being in a shutdown, I assume was difficult. I feel like I was in my own bubble in the pandemic. So I'm trying to even remember what happened with clothing. Were people shopping? What happened with you? What was it like? And then we'll talk about what's going on now.
So I remember I had just recovered from my surgery.
Oh my goodness.
And I had just gotten back from my first buying trip in February of 2020 with my sister, who works with me. And 2 weeks later, we were shut down. And I literally had hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of merchandise hanging in my store. And we were not allowed to have staff. We were not allowed to help customers, nothing.
Yeah.
So really, my kids who are adults, my oldest daughter, Carly, she's the boobies girl. She's 26 now. My younger daughter, Devin, is 24. They would come to the store with me and help me get on social media. And Carly like redesigned our website and created a whole e-commerce system. We got on social media. We started this thing that we still do today. Every Wednesday at 6:30, we do this retail therapy happy hour, and we have a drink and we show everybody what's new. And it started during the pandemic with my children.
Okay.
And now it's just a weekly event where everybody can see what's new every week. And it's really fun. And we have a really fun following. And like, that was huge. And I didn't even pay attention to the website before that.
Right.
So e-commerce really is what saved us, and also providing local delivery, private shopping events. So when we were allowed to have people back, we weren't allowed to be open, but we could have small groups come in. And we started slowly but surely doing it that way. Plus, we're in Florida. It's kind of like the Wild West these days.
Yeah.
So
that was a good state to be in during that time, for sure.
It was a good state to be in during that time. But so yeah, the rules here were not as stringent as they were in some parts of the country. So we did the best we could with what we had. And thank goodness, knock wood, it all worked out.
Yeah. And you've had record years since. So So I am curious, with people talking about a recession and inflation, have you still been hitting good numbers even with this?
Yes. So 2021 was a record year.
Okay.
2022 was a record year. 2023 is not going to be another record, but it's not bad because we were prepared. So we bought less. And because we bought less, we're going to sell less. Our profitability should be better.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah. So we should be fine.
Okay.
People are definitely more mindful. And what I'm finding is they're spending money. They're just spending it on traveling to Europe and going to concerts that cost $1,000 a ticket. And they're not necessarily.
Here's my question. How do you become like the place you shop to go to Taylor Swift, or what you buy before you go to Europe?
You just become a trusted advisor for people, because we've had a lot of those customers. I'm going to the ship. I'm going to Italy for 10 days. I need this, that, and the other thing. And we've become the trusted advisor for people that are going on a trip. I actually had one of my good friends now, but before we were really great friends, her husband contacted me because he was surprising her with a trip to Paris.
Oh, wow.
It was my job to go to her house, her bag.
Oh my goodness.
He was picking her up at lunch.
This is like a dream job. Like you get to pack for somebody else for their trip.
He was picking her up at lunch and they were going to the airport. Like she had no idea. And I was so scared because I know her and she's very particular and she likes all her things. And I was so scared that I was going to miss something, but she came back and she was like, "Oh my gosh, that was amazing. Thank you so much. Everything you chose was perfect." And now every time she goes out of town, she's like, "You want to come over and help me pack?" And I'm like, "You've been trained. You can do it yourself."
I love though that her husband didn't try to do that on his own. Because if my husband packed for me, I would be livid. I would be much happier if he did what that guy did. Okay. So good. Okay. I love this so much. I would love to kind of wrap up with a piece of advice that you would give to somebody that's in their business right now, trying to get to your level, trying to get to that 7-figure mark, trying to get to a decade or 2 decades plus. Like anything you can share that maybe you've experienced or somebody taught you.
I would say this is a what not to do conversation. I think that a lot of times people who are starting their own businesses or who are new worry too much about what other people are doing. I think the most important thing you can do to be here for the long haul is just to be authentically who you are, find your niche, and just be the best at that. And then cheer on your competitors, cheer on your neighbors, cheer on the people that want to collaborate with you, because there's enough business to go around for everybody. And it's the people that get all caught up in worrying what everybody else is doing and me. They're the ones that are slowing themselves down and not focusing on the good stuff and the customers that they have and what they're good at. And that would be my number one piece of advice is don't get the grass is always greener syndrome. Just do you and don't worry about it.
So good. Okay. Do you have e-commerce that people can buy from wherever?
Yes, both businesses do. So Jaffis.com, Jaffis.com is our women's boutique online, and Boobies, BOOB-EEZ.com is my daughter's company.
Okay, there'll be dance moms for sure, and people that just want those for their own personal outfits. Okay, thank you so much. This was so fun. What a great way to kick this off with the series. Thanks for coming on, not knowing what I was going to ask or what to expect or anything, but I really appreciate it, and I think it's so helpful for people to see, like, just the everyday business owner who is crushing it, who also goes through the ups and downs like we all do. So, Emily, thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me.